Hello students, this audio is being made for MA third semester students for the paper of Public Administration. The topic covered in the audio is Evolution of Administrative Theory. To begin with, the word public administration has two connotations: as an activity of government and as an academic discipline. As an activity of government, it is as old as civilization or political system. But as an academic discipline, it has a history of little over 100 years. When we say public administration as academic discipline or field of inquiry, it is just over 100 years old. It doesn't mean no one has said or written about it before. Administration as governmental functioning has always been the subject of interest for scholars and administrators since the ancient times. In India, Kautilya's Arthashastra, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana have many references about the functioning of government. In the West, Aristotle's Politics and Machiavelli's The Prince are prominent contributions to administrative system. However, these thoughts do not constitute an academic discipline because of their scattered nature. Public administration as an activity proceeded long before it became a subject of study in the 18th century. The contemporary discipline emerged out of the bureaucratization of the nation state when the church was separated from the state and government was superimposed on all other social institutions within a definite territory. The evolution of the subject of public administration can be traced largely in the context of the USA, that is United States of America, as a result of growing governmental functions which became highly diversified, complex and specialized. A pressing need was felt for an academic discipline in the area of administration in the United States of America. An article by Woodrow Wilson in 1887 on the study of administration symbolized the beginning of public administration as an autonomous field of study. Among the many factors that led to the emergence of public administration as academic discipline, the most prominent factors are development of modern science and technology, which made huge impact on the life of the people and the functioning of government. The second prominent factor that led to the emergence of public administration as academic discipline is scientific management movement, inspired by the philosophy of Frederick Taylor, Henry Fayol. And the third important factor was gradual evolution of the concept of welfare state. The concept of welfare state has widened the scope of governmental functions and jurisdiction. It has changed the role of government. The laissez-faire centric notion of state has changed into welfare centric state. And the last and the important factor that led to the emergence of the subject as that led to the emergence of public administration as subject was governmental reform movement in the United States of America. The governmental reform movement carried out in the United States of America was a consequence of spoils system. The spoils system was largely characterized by nepotism, favoritism, and corruption. And as a result, a strong need was felt in United States of America for a civil service reforms, and this led to this movement called as governmental reform movement. Now, because of these factors, public administration has emerged as the academic discipline. Now, after having emerged as the academic discipline, now there is a need felt for administrative theory. So, many scholars have contributed a lot in the direction of administrative theory building. The evolution of administrative theory falls into a number of critical stages. The first stage can be called as politics administration dichotomy. This stage began with the publication of the Study of Administration in 1887. The article was written by Woodrow Wilson, who later became the President of the United States of America. Woodrow Wilson argued that politics is concerned with policy making and administration is concerned with implementation of policy. According to Wilson, administration is government in action and the most visible side of the government. He was of the view that students of political science were mostly concerned with constitution, the structure of the state, and the forms of government. Administration became a neglected area of study. Issues such as who should make law and what that law should be were dealt by the students of political science, but the question of how to implement the law was largely ignored. Therefore, Wilson argues that administration and politics are separate. He wanted to make them separate. He says that administrative questions are different from political questions. He further argues that public administration is a detailed and systematic execution of law. Elaborating the point, he says that governmental policies are not administrative, but the detailed execution of policies are administrative. He wanted to remove the public administration from the uncertainties and strifes of politics. He wanted administration to work like a business and adopt the principles of autonomy and efficiency and effectiveness. But later in 1891, he wrote, administration cannot be divorced from its connections with the other branches of public law without being distorted and robbed of its true character. Its foundations are those deep and permanent principles of politics. Scholars are divided in their views on Wilson's intentions on the subject. To some, Wilson stood for the strict dichotomy between politics and administration. And to some, Wilson thought of politics and administration interrelationship, except to add administrative actions are scarcely conceivable except as the implementation of public policies formulated by the political executive. The second stage of evolution of administrative theory is characterized by the tendency to reiterate the dichotomy between politics and administration and to evolve a value-free science of management or principles of administration approach. This idea was advocated by Henry Fayol, Willoughby, Frederick Taylor, Luther Gulick, and Lyndall Urwick. With the help of scientific management methods, the leaders of public administration tried to discover principles of public administration with universal applicability. The focus and emphasis of these thinkers was that they wanted to make public administration as a universal science based on certain principles. All of them have thought that every work has one best way of doing things. So one has to discover the best way of doing things and apply the same on the work. So this is how they wanted to make administration as science. Luther Gulick coined the word post-op to summarize the principles of administration. The acronym post-op stands for P stands for planning, O stands for organizing, S for staffing, D for directing, CO for coordinating, R for reporting, B for budgeting. So all of them have emphasized on the principles and its universal applicability. The third stage of administrative theory was marked by the opposition to science of management approach or principles of administration approach to administration. The famous Hawthorne experiments in the late 1920s carried out by Elton Mayo and others, which later came to be known as human relations approach, drew attention to the formation and effect of informal organizations in the formal setup of organization. It demonstrated the powerful influence of social and psychological factors on the worker's output. It had been realized that general administrative principles derived from scientific or business analysis had limited applicability in public administration. Human relations approach criticized principles of administration approach as mechanistic. The principles of administration approach considered worker as a machine. They did not concentrate on the emotions of worker. So therefore, human relations approach emphasized on human relations between workers So that's why this approach was called as human relations approach. The fourth stage was heralded by two important uh, works or books in the 40s by Herbert Simon and Robert the Hull. Simon's book Administrative Behavior and Robert the Hull's book The Science of Administration, Three Problems made a significant impact on the thinking process of public administration. Herbert Simon rejected both politics administration dichotomy and principles approach in administrative thought and practice. He called principles of administration as proverbs. Simon argued that administration revolves around rationality and decision making. Every aspect of administration is related to decision making. So, in the organization at all levels, decision making takes place. Decisions are taken. So, that's why decision making is very important for Herbert Simon, and he worked on this theme. Simon favored the coexistence of both empirical and normative approaches for the growth and development of public administration. Robert the Hull, in his work The Science of Administration, Three Problems, identified three problems in the way of public administration becoming a science. The first problem identified by Robert the Hull was the impossibility of excluding normative consideration from the problems of public administration. Values are bound to influence public administration while science is value free. Robert the Hull was of the view that public administration cannot be separated from values. So, therefore, it cannot be a science. And on the other hand, any subject which qualifies to be called as science is value free. Therefore, by this parameter, public administration cannot be called as science because it is value laden. The second problem identified by Robert the Hull was that most of the public administration has to do with studying and analyzing human behavior, which is subject to all possible variables and uncertainties. Therefore, making it impossible to subject it to the rigors of scientific inquiry. Robert the Hull was of the view that administration involves a lot of decision making, and when decision making is studied or analyzed, human behavior has to be studied and analyzed. And human behavior is one area which is very complicated, and it is very difficult to study and analyze human behavior. Human behavior is full of uncertainties and inconsistency. So therefore, human behavior cannot be the subject of scientific inquiry. And the third problem identified by Robert the Hull was that no subject can be called as science just on the basis of few examples drawn from limited national and historical settings. Just on the basis of few experiments in limited national settings, cannot make a subject science. And the experiments carried out by scholars in such limited national settings cannot make any subject a science. The final stage in the evolution of administrative theory is marked by the interpenetration of politics and administration at many levels, and the programmatic character of all administration. The interdisciplinary approach has widened the scope of public administration. Through interdisciplinary policy process and planning, public administration has become the most useful guide to practical administrators in the developing and developed countries. It also seeks to promote public interest through political leaders, public bureaucracy, people, and political parties through political participation and public accountability. So, this is how the evolution of administrative theory took place, and still it is evolving. In the next video, I will be coming up with another topic. Until then, bye.